Hey everyone, it's Reef. Just a quick update on the tanks. So this is the display tank that's currently running fallow. It's about 3 weeks after the heater blew and things have all recovered. The depth count was just 2 corals, which I'll go through in a second. So the first coral is the Lobophilia. It's currently looking a little shrunk up, and that's because I've recently took it out and give it a Dettol dip. It didn't look like it was doing well at all, so I've put it into a lower light area, and if you look on the sides of it, you can see almost like little feathers coming off it, some little movement. That looks like it was some form of mould or something alike, or some fungus, so I scrubbed it off, give it the Dettol bath. The next morning it was really puffed up, but on moving it to a little bit higher light spot it shrunk up again, so I'm giving this some time in a smaller space. The next coral is the mushroom, the devil's finger leather. It's currently quite shrunk up and sulking, and it has been doing that quite a lot since the heater blew. It is coming out now and again, but it's just a little bit depressed right now. Next we have the Cephastria on the left. As you can see, that's looking like it died. It's not good at all. I'm just leaving it there to see what happens and if there's any life inside it that might come back out. The GSP has been doing absolutely fantastic, and it's looking greener than it has done for a long time. Looks a little bit browned out, but that's more because of the lights. And then we have the Paliphos. I completely said that wrong, but they are just growing and growing and growing and spreading as usual. They've made their way onto the rock now, as opposed to staying purely on the frag. Next to it we have the Recordia mushrooms. I believe these are Recordia. Now they're dulling out a little bit. They're looking a bit brown, so I might have to drop them lower in the tank to get some better colour. But overall they're splitting and actually doing quite well. Next to them we have some lime green coloured zoas. They started off with a small colony of 4, since have grown to quite a number. I'd say there's probably about 15 heads altogether. They closed up for a couple of days but have been doing well since. Just below that we've got the blue Sympodium that's been doing excellent. Don't think it's growing much and it's not open too much right now, but I have just cleaned the tank and they may have got a bit of a waft from the cleaning of the glass, so they probably just shrunk up for that. The Sunny D Zoas are currently hiding away. They have been coming out, just see it there clamp up, they have been coming out and actually going more of an umbrella shape. I'm not 100% sure why, I'm just leaving it to see where it goes. They're not closed up all the time, so I'm not too worried. Next to these we've got a nice big orange acan. I say big, it's big for my tank, and that's just looking better than it ever has done. And so has the rainbow acan. These are loving life at the minute, and that looks like it's a lavender acan. They are always puffed up, they're always got the tentacles out wanting to feed, and I've recently been just broadcast feeding, not actual target feeding, but they're doing quite well. My clove polyps, they're always open now. I was a bit worried about them for a while, but there isn't a day that they're not open. They've got the nice green centres, then an orange tint on the tips. Now the hammer frag is doing okay. It's not as open as it has been, but it's not exactly closed up, so just keeping an eye on it. It might eventually need moving slightly, but I'm not too worried about that one. The candy cane trumpet is just a single head. That's done absolutely nothing for the 2 months I've had it. It's not grown, it's not shrunk, it's just stayed the exact same. And the Alveopora, that has been very closed off since I had the heater explode, but it is starting to come out now. I had to move it around a few times because it kept getting knocked out and falling over, but it is doing a lot better now. Now the other big change is the sump. As you can see, it's very clean. I was getting a lot of algae that wasn't the Cheeto building up, so it was absolutely disgusting. So I turned off the return, took the sump out and cleaned it top to bottom. There's a small piece of Cheeto that was left over that hadn't melted away, so I'm going to see if that grows out. I was on a 24-hour lighting schedule, but it just didn't seem to provide any growth in the Cheeto. It was just all the other algae that grew. So switched it to a 12-hour reverse light schedule, and we're going to see how that goes. And the same with the skimmer. I've heard a few people say that the skimmers don't need to be run all the time, so we're going to give it a shot, 12 hours on with the reverse lighting schedule, and see how that goes. Hopefully it is pulling out more gunk when it's doing it. You can see quite a nice little foam there. And bearing in mind this tank is empty because of the ick outbreak. I've got about 2 weeks left, then I can add the fish back in. Now this is my newest, we'll call it an adventure. I upgraded the 60 litre anemone tank to a Clear Seal 700. That's about 175 litres, maybe 195 litres, so it's a big upgrade for the fish. They're currently being dwarfed. I initially had the piece of rock on the left with the 2 anemones on it and the one on the right. Since then I've increased the amount of rock and created what I feel is quite nice I don't want to call it an overhang, but it's a nice tunnel with 2 ways in at the back and a nice big open front. The anemones have slowly moved around and opened up. They've actually started bubbling as opposed to just being long and tentacles, and they're looking a lot more pleasant to the eye. The clowns are hosting in them. At the minute they're just on the top right wanting to be fed. The Banggai cardinals just hovering around as usual. But overall I think this tank looks really good right now. We're planning to get some more rock in it, because if it'll take you away slightly, you can see there's still a lot of space at the top. So the plan is to increase the amount of rock on the top of that platform. We're debating whether we go up into a pyramid, like a triangle shape, or if we try and stick some rock on top of the white piece as it is at present, and have it coming off in the same pattern as the ones at the bottom to really give it like a nice overhang shape. But we'll see what we can do with that when we get some more macro rock available. Now just really quickly to give you an overview, the light is a Spectra. It's a Aqua Night Spectra. It's 30 watts, it's providing plenty of light. I'll do a proper review of this shortly. I do have an LED bar on there which is currently not in use. That was the old light that they were putting out quite a stringy, the anemones were giving out that stringy look as opposed to the bubbles. If I zoom in on an anemone there, you can see how nicely bubbled it is, and quite often you will find the anemones hiding away in it. Long-term plan as well is to keep this as an anemone tank. I might put a few tough corals in that aren't going to get stung away by the anemones, but the idea is to keep it just for anemones, maybe get a couple of rock flowers in there and a sea bay if it'll happily host together. And the last tank, just let me turn the lights on for you. The last tank is just the quarantine. All the fish are doing well. As there's 2 weeks before I can add them back to the main display, just as a precautionary, I treat them with copper initially for 2 weeks, and then gradually with water changes drop that down. It's now 10 weeks into the 12-week fallow period, and I've put some more copper in, and we're going to see how these fish do. It's just to give it a last treatment to make sure that if there was anything lurking in that tank, they are all completely dead and removed. Hopefully moving them back to the main tank shouldn't have any more issues. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more updates. I'll be providing some good reviews on the products I've got for the new tank and how I'm running it, and any plans that I'm going with going forth.